860 volts. 5 times more powerful than the outlet in your wall. Enough electricity to kill a horse. The most powerful bioelectricity in nature. And this eel still misses 60% of its prey. Why? Because physics doesn't care how powerful your weapon is. It cares about range. And in water, electricity is almost none. The Amazon basin. Muddy, murky, zero visibility. Rivers choked with sediment, decaying vegetation. Tannins from decomposing leaves. Visibility, less than 1 meter on a good day. In this environment, eyes are useless. Most predators can't hunt here. Too dark, too cloudy, too unpredictable. But the electric eel doesn't need to see. It has something better than vision. It has electricity. Let's break down this living weapon. 2 meters long, 20 kilograms. Looks like an eel. Isn't actually an eel. It's a type of knife fish. But the name stuck. And here's why. Strip away the skin. Inside, you'd expect organs. Heart, stomach, liver. This creature has those. But they only occupy 20% of its body. The other 80%, batteries. 3 separate electric organs. The main organ, the hunter's organ, sax organ, each built from the same blueprint. Modified muscle cells called electrocytes. Thousands of them, stacked in series, like batteries in a flashlight. When one cell generates 0.15 volts, 1,000 cells stacked together generate 150 volts. The electric eel has over 5,000 electrocytes, all firing simultaneously. 860 volts. 1 amp 860 watts of power. Here's how it works. Each electrocyte is a biological capacitor. One side is loaded with sodium ions, positive charge. Other side is loaded with potassium ions, negative charge. A voltage difference, potential energy, weighting. When the eel's brain sends a signal, all 5,000 cells open their ion channels. Simultaneously, sodium floods across the membrane. Current flows, and the eel becomes a weapon. The discharge lasts 2 milliseconds, 2,000ths of a second. But in that instant, the eel outputs more power than every cell in your body combined. A living taser. Underwater lightning. The most spectacular predator adaptation in the Amazon. Let's measure this weapon. Voltage output, 10 out of 10. 860 volts. Maximum bioelectricity ever recorded. Discharge rate, 9 out of 10. Can shock up to 400 times per hour. Rapid fire capability. Self-defense, 10 out of 10. Even caimans and jaguars avoid attacking. One shock teaches permanent respect. Electrolocation accuracy, 9 out of 10. Can detect prey position to within centimeters in complete darkness. But here's where physics breaks the system. Effective range, 2 out of 10. This is the problem. Electricity disperses in water. Not slowly. Not gradually. Catastrophically. At the eel's body, 860 volts. Instantly lethal. 1 meter away, 200 volts. Painful. Disorienting. Not lethal. 2 meters away, 50 volts. Annoying. Prey can still escape. 3 meters away, harmless. This is the inverse square law. Electrical field strength drops with the square of distance. Double the distance. Quarter the power. Triple the distance. 1/9 the power. In air, this wouldn't matter. Air is an insulator. Electricity doesn't spread. It follows a path. A taser works at 4 to 5 meters because the current travels through wires. Direct connection. No dispersion. But in water, water conducts electricity in all directions simultaneously. The current spreads like a sphere, and the further it spreads, the weaker it gets. The eel's perfect weapon is defeated by the medium it lives in. Accuracy, 3 out of 10. And there's another problem. The eel can't aim electricity. You can aim a bite, aim a strike, aim a lunge. But electricity, it goes everywhere. The eel discharges, and every living thing within range gets shocked, including the eel itself, though it's insulated. But that means wasted energy. Every discharge hits a target. Maybe. Every other fish nearby. The water itself. Random vegetation. Nothing. Most of the power dissipates into the environment. Gone. Wasted. Useless. Energy efficiency, 4 out of 10. Each full power discharge depletes 20 to 30% of the eel's stored energy. That's not infinite ammunition. 3 or 4 full shocks, and the eel is exhausted. Recharge time, 10 to 15 minutes of rest before another full power discharge. And during that recharge window, the eel is vulnerable, slower, tired, defenseless. If the first few shocks miss, the hunt fails, and the eel goes hungry. Hunting success rate, 4 out of 10. Studies show electric eels miss 60 to 70% of hunting attempts. Not because they can't detect prey, not because they can't generate enough power, but because the prey is usually just outside lethal range. The eel senses a fish 2 meters away. Discharges. The fish feels 50 volts, painful, but survivable. Swims away. The eel wasted 25% of its energy and got nothing. This is a weapon that works perfectly in a 1 meter radius. Beyond that, physics wins. The eel loses. And here's the cruel irony. The electric eel lives in murky water because it can hunt there. Its electric sense works in zero visibility, but that also means it can't see how far away the prey actually is. Electrolocation gives direction, gives size, gives proximity, but distance, imprecise. The eel knows. Prey detected at roughly 2 meters. But 2 meters might be 1.5 meters, lethal range, or 2.5 meters, escape range. It discharges anyway. Hope-based hunting. Again, its eyes are almost useless. Tiny, poorly developed, barely functional. Evolution made a trade. Perfect vision is useless in murky water, so the eel abandoned vision and built electrical sense instead. But electrical sense can't measure exact distance. And exact distance is the difference between a meal and wasted energy. The weapon is perfect. The targeting system is broken. So how does this actually work? Ambush. The electric eel doesn't chase. It waits, motionless, conserving energy, generating a weak electric field, 10 to 50 volts, constantly pulsing. This is electrolocation. The field extends 3 to 4 meters around its body. When something enters the field, the water's conductivity changes. The eel detects the distortion. Prey, 2 meters away, southwest direction. Small fish, maybe 10 centimeters. Target acquired. The eel doesn't move. Not yet. It waits for the prey to come closer. 1.8 meters. 1.5 meters. 1.2 meters. Close enough. The brain sends the signal. All 5,000 electrocytes fire. Simultaneously. 2 milliseconds of lightning. 860 volts. 1 amp. At the eel's body. Instant death for anything touching it. At 1 meter. 200 to 300 volts. Neuromuscular incapacitation. Paralysis. The prey's muscles seize. It can't swim, can't flee, can't do anything but float. The eel doesn't need to chase. It just collects. Success. But that's the best case scenario. Here's what usually happens. Prey detected. 2.2 meters. The eel waits. But the prey doesn't come closer. It's moving parallel, not approaching. The eel gets impatient. Discharges anyway. 860 volts at source. By the time the current reaches 2.2 meters, 40 volts, the fish feels a jolt. Painful, startling, but not paralyzing. It swims away. Fast. And the eel, depleted. 25% energy gone. Recharge time, 12 minutes. No food. Failure. This happens. A lot. 60 to 70% of hunting attempts fail. Not because the weapon doesn't work, but because physics limits its range. And in the murky Amazon, prey rarely gets within the kill zone by accident. For small prey, 1 shock is enough. But larger prey, more body mass, more resistance to voltage, harder to paralyze. The eel needs multiple shocks. First discharge, stun. Second discharge, weaken. Third discharge, incapacitate. Fourth discharge, if needed. But remember, each discharge costs energy. 4 shocks equals 80 to 100% of stored power. And after that, the eel is completely depleted. If the prey escapes after 3 shocks, the eel can't pursue, can't discharge again, can't defend itself if something attacks. Just exhausted, waiting to recharge, vulnerable. And here's the other problem. The more the eel discharges, the weaker each subsequent shock becomes. First shock, 860 volts. Second shock, 700 volts. Third shock, 550 volts. Fourth shock, 400 volts. Diminishing returns. The weapon gets weaker, exactly when it needs to be strongest, because the prey is learning. Each shock that doesn't kill teaches the prey to flee faster, to swim erratically, to get outside the eel's range. And by the fourth shock, the prey is already 3 meters away, escaping. Gone. The electric eel is evolution's experiment in bioelectricity. It's a predator that generates lightning, a living weapon that outputs more power than a taser. The most spectacular electrical system in nature, and it's limited by physics that evolution can't overcome. Electricity disperses in water. Inverse square law. Omnidirectional propagation. Energy dissipation. No amount of evolutionary optimization can change that. The eel can generate more voltage, but it won't increase range. The eel can discharge faster, but it won't improve accuracy. The eel can store more energy, but it won't solve the targeting problem. Physics imposes a hard limit, and the electric eel lives right at that limit. But here's what evolution did solve. In a river where eyes are useless, it built electrical sense. In an environment where most predators starve, it survives. The weapon isn't perfect. The range is terrible. The success rate is mediocre. But it's good enough. Good enough to hunt. Good enough to navigate. Good enough to survive. And in evolution, good enough is all that matters. The electric eel doesn't dominate the Amazon. It doesn't need to. It carved out a niche that no other predator can occupy. Hunting in zero visibility, with a weapon that works in a 1-meter radius, and missing 60% of the time. Evolution doesn't create perfect weapons. It creates weapons that work just well enough to keep hunting. 860 volts has a cost, and the cost is this. Physics always wins, even against evolution's most spectacular weapon.